All right, sports fans, how's everybody out there doing? William Martin coming at you one more time here on YouTube with another edition of the 300 Pounds of Sports Knowledge podcast. With the start of the 2023/2024 NBA season right around the corner, I want to talk about things as far as I see them going down in the Eastern Conference. Now, of course, a lot of big moves made over the offseason, most of them coming recently, as far as the top dogs at the top of the East, upgrading their respective rosters. Of course, you threw the records out of the window last year come playoff time because we saw the Miami Heat, a team from the play-in tournament, make that run all the way to the NBA Finals. So I think we got once again a very good season in store on the Eastern Conference side. And with that said, let's see who's going to be the beast of the East. So I want to start with the Milwaukee Bucks because, of course, the big question is going to be how will the new look Bucks be? They made that big trade about a month or so ago to pick up all-star point guard Damian Lillard from the Portland Trailblazers. And in doing so, they parted with a lot of their depth, most notably point guard Drew Holiday. And that's a void to fill. Now, what I will say about this, and I've said it before, and I'm going to say it again right now. Drew Holiday, between him and Damian Lillard, is the better point guard. But Damian Lillard is the better finisher. And that's something that the Bucks needed as well. You need that finisher to go alongside with Giannis. So it's all going to be about how Giannis and Damian Lillard mesh with one another. Also, there's some other key questions for this Milwaukee Bucks team. Mike Budenholzer is no longer the head coach as he's been replaced by Adrian Griffin. It also looked like it was going to be a smoother transition rather for Lillard to Milwaukee as Terry Stotts, his longtime head coach with the Blazers, was an assistant coach on Griffin's staff until recently he stepped down. Now, Griffin does bring a defensive mindset to the Bucks, and it's going to be interesting to see how things play out there. Will Chris Middleton be able to stay healthy? His absence has been key for the Bucks in recent years. You go back to a couple of years ago when the Bucks were looking to repeat. They got to the second round, took the Celtics to 7 games before they lost. And I still say, if Chris Middleton had not been hurt, the Bucks more than likely win that series, and they probably repeat as NBA champions. They need a healthy Chris Middleton in Milwaukee. You still got Brooke Lopez and you got Bobby Portis, but then you also lost Grayson Allen, and that's a big loss right there for Milwaukee. The talent is there for this Bucks team. It's just going to come down to their depth. Now, speaking of the top dogs in the East, the Boston Celtics, they've been so close so many times over the last couple of years to winning that 18th Larry O'Brien trophy. And, you know, last year was very funny. The Celtics, they got to the Eastern Conference Finals again. They were looking to get back to the NBA Finals. They were down 0-3 against the Miami Heat before they rallied to win the next three, only to lose game 7 on their home court. Now, a lot of changes have been made to this team. Longtime guard Marcus Smart is gone. He's in Memphis. And I said it when it happened. Marcus Smart was the heart and soul of that team. So it's going to be very interesting to see how the Celtics replace him. Grant Williams, Robert Williams are gone. So where's the depth and the size going to come from the Boston Celtics? But then after Drew Holiday was traded to the Portland Trailblazers, the Celtics did whatever they had to do to get Drew Holiday from Portland. And that's a big move right there because you get yourself a legit point guard here if you're the Celtics. You get yourself a true ball handler, a floor general. And then on top of that, if you're the Celtics, you're going to have a motivated Drew Holiday because he's back in the East. And I guarantee you at some point, Milwaukee and Boston are going to butt heads in the postseason. And that right there, having Drew Holiday, I think could be an X factor, if you will, because he's still a quality point guard. And then on top of that, he's going to be motivated. You bring in Kristaps Porzingis, so another scorer. You still got Jason Tatum and Jalen Brown, two of the best at what they do. And then you still got Al Horford and Derek White. So if you're Joe Mazzulla with this Celtics team, the talent is still there. It's just a matter of the Celtics finding a way to get over that hump. And of course, with this franchise and with the talent on this team, you're going to be defined by what you're able to or not do come June in the postseason. Now, you look at the Philadelphia 76ers, and after Brett Brown and Doc Rivers before him could not get it done for these underachieving 76ers, the task now falls into the lap of former Toronto Raptors head coach Nick Nurse. And I say this because the Sixers have had all of the talent in the world, but this team has still been unable to get past the second round of the NBA playoffs since 2001, which was the last time that they made the NBA Finals. Now, you bring in Nick Nurse, the former Raptors head coach, and you think about his first year in Toronto. He led that team to an NBA championship. He's trying to do it again here in Philly, but everybody's not on board. And I talked about this recently where the Sixers should have done it before. They have not learned. More importantly, Daryl Morey has not learned. Um, just cut bait with James Harden. See what you can get back because I think this distraction is going to carry over into the NBA season. And if you're the Sixers, you're in win now mode. They made this mistake before with Ben Simmons, and they're teetering going down this road once again with James Harden. You got the reigning MVP in Joel Embiid. How much longer can he play at that elite level? We got to wait and see. Plenty of talent around Embiid with Tobias Harris, Tyrese Maxey, you bring in Kelly Oubre, another scorer, and then you have a solid veteran defender on the perimeter in PJ Tucker. It's going to come down to two things. It's going to come down to the young, not really the young Sixers, but the Sixers overall buying into what Nick Nurse is selling. And then on top of that, they've got to get away from this James Harden situation because the longer that it goes, the more questions that are going to be asked and need to be answered. And then on top of that, just let everybody go their separate ways. James Harden clearly doesn't want to be there. I think this is Daryl Morey's stubbornness, if you will, for this. And like I said before, they should have learned from the Ben Simmons fiasco. So it's going to be interesting to see how the 76ers can overcome that this season. Now, for the Cleveland Cavaliers, they won 50 games last year for the first time since the days of LeBron, but they got to try to build off of that as they just had their first playoff trip since 2018. Donovan Mitchell, one of the better scoring guards in the NBA. Plenty of talent around him with Darius Garland, Evan Mobley, Karis LeVert, and Jarrett Allen. And then Cleveland went out there and signed Max Strus. And of course, Max Strus had that big playoff run with the Heat last summer, and he was able to cash in. So if you're JB Bickerstaff and his Cavs coaching staff, it's one of those where not only getting the most out of your team during the regular season, which he can do, it's just finding a way to take that next step in the postseason. Let's see if the Cavs can do it. The Miami Heat, they kind of sleptwalk, if you will, through the regular season last year. And I say that because this Heat team, they're a veteran bunch, they're battle tested, they're built more for the postseason than they are the regular season. And I think we saw that last year in Miami's run to the NBA Finals. Lost some of those key spare parts, if you will, to this team, but you still got Jimmy Butler and you got Bam Adebayo for head coach Eric Spoelstra. You got the veterans like Kevin Love and Tyler Harrow. And for Eric Spoelstra, he's going to once again try to find that secret sauce for the Heat. I think it's a scenario where the Heat once again maybe sleepwalk a little bit through the regular season. But again, this is a team, they know how to turn it on when the chips are pushed to the middle of the table. For the New York Knicks, they want to try to find a way to build off of last year's postseason run. The Knicks won a playoff series, got to the second round, and of course, the folks in the Big Apple are really optimistic about this team. Jalen Brunson, in his first year with the Knicks, has shown that he is a star at point guard. And then you bring in so many of his former college teammates that won a national championship with him at Villanova. You bring in Dante DiVincenzo. You already had Josh Hart in place. Now you've got a big man in Mitchell Robinson who can block shots and rebound, and then a guy like Emmanuel quickly. Just I think he flies under the radar, but he's an impact player. That's the best way to sum him up. For RJ Barrett and Julius Randle, I think the biggest thing for both of them is this: they need to find a way to better utilize their size. Julius Randle and RJ Barrett, in my opinion, play too much on the perimeter. And I think Julius Randle playing closer to the basket would both benefit his game, of course, and that of the Knicks. And the same thing can be said for RJ Barrett. So it's going to be interesting to see how this Tom Thibodeau-led Knicks team gets it done in the East this season. For the Atlanta Hawks, this is going to be their first full year under Quinn Snyder as a head coach. Remember, he took over midseason last year. And, you think back to Quinn Snyder's time with the Utah Jazz. He preached ball movement. Atlanta last year was 18th in the NBA in assists. And it's going to be interesting because I say that because you have contrasting styles here, if you will. You have a head coach in Quinn Snyder that preaches ball movement, but then you have two star players in Trey Young and Dejounte Murray in your backcourt that are ISO players. So is there going to be a happy median, if you will, between head coach and stars? We got to wait and see. No more John Collins as he's with the Utah Jazz, but you still got DeAndre Hunter, Clint Capella, one of the better rim protectors in the East, as well as Bogdan Bogdanovic. So, like I said, last year was a transition year for the Hawks. Let's see how they're able to carry it over here to this season. Now, for the Indiana Pacers, they're rebuilding, but you got to wonder if they're ready to make that postseason push for veteran head coach Rick Carlisle. Tyrese Halliburton is a double double guy as far as his points and assists, and he has plenty of talent to get the ball to. You got Miles Turner, the big man. I like Indiana picking up Obi Toppin, and I talked about this numerous times. I felt like the Knicks did not utilize Obi Toppin properly. They tried to make him something that he wasn't. You go back to his last collegiate season at Dayton. He was a national player of the year. So there's definitely talent there. He's playing in a smaller market in Indiana. He's going to fly under the radar. And I think he has the opportunity to have an impact season this time around for the Pacers. You still got Buddy Hield, a three-point shooter who can get it going. When he's on, he's on. When he's off, he's off. Benedict Mathurin, and then Bruce Brown. Bruce Brown was a quiet pickup for the Pacers. Of course, he was an impact player for the Denver Nuggets, did a lot of the dirty work in helping them win an NBA championship last season. And let's see how he is able to transition to life with the Pacers. Now, for the Brooklyn Nets, last year, they began the season with so much star power, thinking about winning the NBA championship. Of course, that went south in a hurry. Kevin Durant was traded to the Suns, Kyrie Irving was traded to the Mavericks, and the Nets are once again starting over. But for Jock Vaughn and his bunch, there's still talent on this Brooklyn Nets team. You got Mikal Bridges, who you picked up in the Kevin Durant trade. And in his brief time with the Nets in the second half of last season, he showed that he could be the guy for you. You got Cam Johnson. You brought back Spencer Dinwiddie. You got Nick Claxton. So there's talent there. But the X factor, the most important question that has to be answered for the Brooklyn Nets is, will Ben Simmons play this year, and what type of Ben Simmons will they see? If you can somehow get a motivated Ben Simmons, which is easier said than done, I think he could be the centerpiece, if you will, for this Nets team. And if that is the case, the Brooklyn Nets could be a sleeper in the Eastern Conference. Now, for the Toronto Raptors, they're definitely rebuilding. They've moved on from head coach Nick Nurse after 5 years, and he's been replaced by Darko Rajakovic as the head coach in Toronto. You still got Pascal Siakam, a consistent 20-point guy. Losing Fred Van Fleet in free agency to the Houston Rockets will hurt um, the Raptors. But you still got Gary Trent Jr., OG Ananobi, and Scotty Barnes. But again, losing that big void of Fred Van Fleet is going to hurt the Raptors, as this is a transition period for them, if you will. Not a team that goes out there and makes a splash in free agency. With them, for the most part, it's all about developing their guys. So let's see how competitive these Raptors will be in the Eastern Conference. For the Chicago Bulls, it's been the same old story. They got the talent, but they just have that void at point guard. No Lonzo Ball. And like I've talked about it before, Lonzo may never play again. And it's unfortunate because the talent is there. And he was a perfect point guard for this team with Zach Levine and DeMar DeRozan. But, talking about Levine and DeRozan, you're talking about two guys that can easily get you 25 points per night, but they just need that point guard. There's talent on this team in Chicago for head coach Billy Donovan, which includes big man Nikola Vujacic, but it's just finding that, trying to fill that void rather at point guard. That's going to be the one thing that does hold Chicago back this season. The young Orlando Magic, they are improving and they're trying to be competitive and get into that play-in tournament this year. Strong rookie campaign for Paolo Banchero. Can he build off of that and avoid the sophomore slump? We got to wait and see. You got the Wagner brothers, Mo and Franz, Cole Anthony at point guard, Jalen Suggs, Wendell Carter Jr. So there's talent there for Jamal Mosley, but it's just, can the Magic do enough to take that next step and be among the top 10 or even top 8 teams in the East? We got to wait and see. Now, for the Washington Wizards, they've had consecutive 37 win seasons, but what can we expect for them this time around? For the first time since the 2011-2012 NBA season, Bradley Beal will not be suiting up for the Wizards as he was traded to the Phoenix Suns. So you're looking at it like this: the Wizards are going to score points with Kyle Kuzma. You bring in Jordan Poole, the former Golden State Warrior, and then you got Danilo Gallinari. Um, like I said, scoring will not be the problem for Washington. It's just going to be everything else. And when you're one dimensional like that, I'm not sure if it's going to be enough for the Wizards to make a postseason push. For the Charlotte Hornets, it's a new ownership group taking over, but will that be able to change the fortunes of this team? First and foremost, the Hornets have to get LaMelo Ball healthy. He only appeared in 36 games last year. And then, the Hornets are another one of those teams. They're going to score. If LaMelo Ball's healthy, you got Terry Rozier, rookie Brandon Miller, the second overall pick out of Alabama. You got PJ Washington and Gordon Hayward. But for Steve Clifford's bunch, they have to find a way to play defense. And unless the Hornets can play defense consistently, they really don't have a chance in the Eastern Conference. And finally, you got the Detroit Pistons. And it's unfortunate that this franchise has fallen on hard times like it has. The Pistons have only made it to the playoffs 2 times in the last 14 years. They have not won a postseason series, excuse me, since 2009. They have not had a winning season since 2016, and they lost a franchise worst 65 games last year. And what has done the Pistons in recent years? First and foremost, their inability to draft, and then their inability to develop talent, and then their inability to keep talent. And when you put that all together, this is why the Pistons are in the current situation that they are. So they bring in Monty Williams as their new head coach. Of course, he, had a terrific run during his time with the Phoenix Suns, just fell short of winning an NBA championship. And now he's trying to build this team from the ground up. Will Cade Cunningham be able to stay healthy? He only appeared in 12 games last year for Detroit, and he is the key for anything that the Pistons are going to try to do. You've got Bojan Bogdanovic, and you also have James Wiseman. And I think, people forget James Wiseman came on strong last year after he was traded by the Warriors, after the Warriors gave up on him. And I think this is a guy, this could be the perfect situation for James Wiseman in Detroit. Nobody's paying attention to him, nobody's talking about him. And I think he has an opportunity to put up some numbers, but will it be enough to help the Pistons win some basketball games? That's going to be key. Now, will the Pistons also be able to compete? And I say that because 14 of their 65 losses last season were by at least 20 points. So it's one of those scenarios right now for the Pistons. Their opponents, when they face them, they know all we have to do is lace up our shoes, or basically that's how they feel. Just lace them up, and we can go out there and take care of our business. So the Pistons need to change that culture. They need to change that thought process as they try to find a way to compete in the Eastern Conference. But when it's all said and done, looking at the East for this upcoming NBA season, which is set to start in a couple of days, I think the top spot is going to be a battle all season long between Milwaukee and Boston. I think they're going to flip flop, but I think I'm going to give the slight edge to Boston in that sense. Surprisingly, I'm going to go with Cleveland at number 3, just due to the fact that I feel like the situation with the Sixers is going to really hurt them until they just put their pride aside and say, you know what, let's move on from James Harden. I do think the Sixers will finish 4th. I've got the Knicks 5th, Miami coming in at 6th. Like I said before, Miami is one of those teams, they're better built for the postseason than they are regular season. Number 7, I'm going to go with the Hawks. Number 8, I'm going to go with the Pacers. Number 9, I'm going to go with the Brooklyn Nets. I think this team is going to surprise some people, and they're going to compete for head coach Jock Vaughn this season. Number 10, even though that they're rebuilding, I'm going to go with the Raptors. 11, I'm going to go with Chicago. 12, I'm going to give it to Orlando. 13, Washington. 14, Charlotte. And then finally, 15th with Detroit. And when it's all said and done, I think the Boston Celtics have what it takes to get back to the NBA Finals this season. I really do think that them picking up Drew Holiday is a big move. I think them picking up Drew Holiday to me is bigger than Milwaukee picking up Damian Lillard because I think Drew Holiday has something to prove. He's going to be motivated. He's going to be back in the East going up against the Milwaukee Bucks, a team that he helped win the NBA championship a couple of years ago. And the last thing that you need is a motivated player of any kind. But with that said, I think we are still in store for a tremendous season on the Eastern Conference side. Like I said, I just want to see how quickly that the 76ers can solve this James Harden issue. And until then, that is really going to hinder their chances. But nonetheless, with the start of the NBA campaign right around the corner, exciting times are coming up on the hardwood. So, folks, that is going to wrap it up. And as always, I want to take this time out to thank you for tuning into the 300 Pounds of Sports Knowledge podcast here on YouTube. I want to take this time out to thank all of you fine folks out there for tuning in. And if you have not already, please feel free to subscribe to this channel. Now, if you're on the X, formerly known as Twitter, please feel free to follow me at 300 Pounds of Sports. And like I always say, if you follow me, it'll be my pleasure to follow you right back. There's also the sports discussion group on Facebook at the Sports Depot 365. Now, you can check it out. Drop a line and be a part of one of the better sports debating sites going on social media. So, once again, fine folks, my name is William Martin, and I'm signing off. And I'm saying take care and have yourselves a wonderful day.